certainly makes you wonder, but I'm excited about Curtis. Did you say Curtis Blow? I was thinking of
Curtis,
not
said
Curtis Blow.
I said Curtis Riggs.
Curtis Blow wrote Basketball. The song, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's time for the Brew and Shavers Sports Podcast.
Hey there, sports fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Brew and Shavers Sports Podcast. Here we are virtually in the middle of February, Darren.
That's right.
And it's been a little crazy weather here in Louisiana this month.
Yeah. We've had a little bit of everything, haven't we? We've had snow. Well, that wasn't this month, though, was it? But still, since in the first 6 weeks of the year, we've had snow, we've had thunderstorms, we've had hailstorms. We've had a little bit of everything.
So I don't know how the weather is wherever you're at, but it's been crazy here in Louisiana. The other day at church, an older lady was talking to me about the weather, which is a common thing, a conversation starter. You start talking about the weather because we had some bad thunderstorms come through Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And she said her grandmother used to always tell her that thunderstorms in February means snow in April.
That would be very weird if we had snow in April here. I think that would be seen as apocalyptic if we had snow in April here.
Now, we've had snow in late February, early March, but April would be quite a stretch.
Yeah, that would be, like I said, that there would be people freaking out. Kroger might not ever recover from that, truthfully. The way people...
Well, let's get into our headlines for this week. The Super Bowl. I lost my notes for a second, Darren.
There was a game. Some people were playing.
Kansas City Chiefs, back-to-back Super Bowl champions after a 25-22 overtime victory over the San Francisco 49ers. A game that was generally well played, but some critical mistakes by both teams. Turnovers. And how do you explain the Niners not deferring when they won the toss in overtime?
Yeah, I agree completely. I don't get that one at all. And there are going to be people that say you get the ball and you take control of it. And I understand that too, or I see what they're saying. I can't say that I understand it, but I see what they're saying. But I mean, obviously it didn't work out. I mean,
and that's one of the things under the old rules, you definitely wanted the ball.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is the first time where both teams were going to get a possession unless there was a defensive touchdown. So it makes sense, let the other team take the ball and then you kind of see what you need.
Yep. Speaking of overtime, just a quick rabbit chase, very, very short rabbit chasing moment. Did you like the NFL overtime the way it was last night, or would you prefer to see it adopt a little bit more of a college way of overtime? Which would you have liked to have seen?
I liked it. I liked how the head official announced it. We're playing another game. I don't like what does college do? Line up on the 25-yard line.
Yeah. And then you have to take the 2 point after like 2 tries, you have to do a 2-point conversion every time or whatever it is.
I'd rather see it just like it's played in regulation.
Yeah. I didn't know if I would like that or not, truthfully. The kind of the excitement of the college, because everything is so compact, that does build some excitement. But I tell you, the way it played out and the fact that, I mean, they're driving and I mean, they decide to kick a field goal there. And I mean, you've got, we're going into even more because it's a Super Bowl. It's not going to end in a tie like would be under normal circumstances. It really played out exciting. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would and liked the way it was set up.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was good. I liked the rule change. You feel for the Niners. Kansas City just finds a way to win. So, in other news in the Super Bowl, the incident between Travis Kelce and head coach Andy Reid in the first half sparked a lot of discussion, as
Yeah,
do most things on social media.
yeah,
Everyone
exactly.
has an opinion.
Yeah.
Both Coach Reed and Kelsey today have downplayed that, talking about, Andy Reid has protected his player, saying,
Hmm.
he was passionate and he encourages that among his players. So, you know, I thought it wasn't a good look. In fact, I was
Right.
watching the Super Bowl with a high school coach, and he said, great, a kid's going to see that and think it's okay to do that to a coach.
Yep.
I thought it was a poor look, but I don't have anything else to say about that because both Coach Reed and Kelsey have both downplayed it. So I really don't think we can make a big deal about it since the principal parties are downplaying it.
And you're correct. You cannot correct the look of it. It didn't look good. It was a poor judgment moment for Travis Kelsey. However, it is not a unique thing that something that happened in the midst of competition got a little out of hand. That's not a unique moment in the process of whatever the sport, football, baseball, basketball, hockey. It doesn't excuse it, doesn't make it okay. But the difference is it was on the largest stage in the world, and that's what makes the look so bad. I just about would guarantee he would do it differently if there was any way possible he could, and I would assume that his coach knows that, and that's the reason it's been downplayed. This is not, most likely. I mean, we don't know. We haven't met Travis Kelsey. We don't know Taylor's boyfriend. But my guess is it was something that was out of the ordinary, not a good look. Wish it wouldn't have happened. I think, the point that was made that the fact that high school players are going to see that and think it's acceptable. That's extremely unfortunate. But you're right. What else can you say about it? Honestly.
Yeah, yeah. It was unfortunate, but nevertheless,
Yep.
the Chiefs prevail 25-22 in overtime. In other sports related news, some money news, not talking about the Super Bowl, but the SEC has distributed $741 million in revenue. That is 51.3 per school.
Mm.
Not too shabby.
No, that can help a budget. I'm guessing. I'm guessing that can help a budget. But don't you worry. Vanderbilt will take that 51 million, and this time next year still have a scoreboard swinging from a crane. Don't you worry. They've got it in hand. Don't.
Hey, isn't any publicity good publicity, right?
No, not if you're Vanderbilt football. No.
In other news, in the NCAA football landscape, several coaching moves have taken place
Yes.
this week. And I want to mention a couple outside of the SEC before we come back to a big coordinator role that is open in the SEC. How about Chip Kelly leaving UCLA as the head coach to go to Ohio State as the offensive coordinator? Darren, is that the first time a Power 5 head coach has willingly left a school to take a coordinator job at another school?
If it's not, it's a buried deep in the archives. Nobody's ever talked about it because it seems so odd kind of thing. Because I mean, who does that? I mean, especially, think about it, take it one step further. This is an in-conference jump now. He left a Big Ten school as a head coach. Well, they will be this time next year. So basically, he left a Big Ten school as a head coach to be a Big Ten offensive coordinator. I don't. What do you think I can't figure it out. What do you think the motivation is there? Is it just because of what that job is?
I think he wanted out of UCLA.
Well, and that makes sense.
UCLA seems to be sending the signals they are not going to be a big player in NIL.
Yeah. And if you're going to have to play all of your games in the Northeast, why not live in the Northeast instead of live on the West Coast? I mean, that kind of makes it make sense too, I guess.
That's a great observation.
I mean,
yeah. Now, what enabled Chip Kelly to go to Ohio State was a vacancy created when Bill O'Brien, newly hired offensive coordinator at Ohio State, decides to go back to Boston to take the head coaching job at Boston College.
They offered him some wicked good chowder. Sorry, that's all I got.
Hey, I will tell you, there's some wicked good chowder up there. There's some of the best chowder in the world. Woo.
I can only imagine.
Food. That's comfort food. We eat gumbo down here, but up there that would be their comfort food.
It's chowder. I don't know why I turned that into.
You've been working on that accent.
It went a little Arnold. The first time went okay. The second time went a little Arnold Schwarzenegger lives in Boston. I don't know where that came from.
Like that State Farm commercial. I thought
maybe that's where it came from.
were you inspired by the Dunkin' Donuts Super Bowl commercial? What was that Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Tom Brady?
Yeah. How about these apples? There you go.
Oh, goodness.
Anyway, sorry. I totally derailed everything there. That was my fault.
Well, let's get back to familiar territory. Let's go back to the South, where at Alabama, we have an opening for an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Because the guy that came with Kalen DeBoer, what's his name? Ryan Grubbs?
Yes.
Has accepted the offensive coordinator job with the Seattle Seahawks. So where does Alabama go?
Well, first of all, it's really interesting that Ryan Grubb was very clear from the beginning that he wanted the Washington College job. He wanted to be the head coach and didn't get hired and was upset about it. Then said, okay, I'm going to be the offensive coordinator. As late as Thursday of last week was saying, I am the offensive coordinator at booster meetings and on the recruiting trail. Met with the Seahawks on Friday, signed the deal on Saturday. So apparently he never was official. I mean, there were never, if you go back and look, there never was an official statement made. He just kind of showed up and then left. Now, as far as where do they go, a couple of pieces of the puzzle. Number one additional absence that this creates or opening that this creates that is very, very unfortunate for Coach DeBoer and for the Alabama faithful. Scott Huff, who is the offensive line coach that everybody was excited about because he was the coach of the best offensive line in the country last year, that came with Kalen DeBoer and Brian Grubb, is going to Seattle with him. Now, the interesting thing that brings up is two other names of will they become candidates for the position because they're already at Alabama, or will they go with Ryan Grubb? And that is wide receiver coach Jamarcus Shepard and tight end coach Nick Sheridan. Now, Nick Sheridan in the past has been a passing game coordinator. The other coach, Jamarcus Shepard, has never been a coordinator, but has been a part of Kalen DeBoer's system for several years. So there's some talk in Alabama circles when you look at fan sites and boards and stuff. There is some talk that these two guys could form kind of the offensive committee, pass game coordinator, run game coordinator, and possible that Nick Sheridan takes on the play calling role, or that these two become passing game coordinator, run game coordinator, and Kalen DeBoer takes on the play calling role on game day. That's also a possibility. Now, one other potential as a replacement that is going to be some heartbreaking news for our good friend in Missouri, Eli. Go right ahead.
Drinkwitz.
Another name that is linked to Coach DeBoer, to Kalen DeBoer, is Kirby Moore at Missouri. There is a background of working together, knowing one another. So that is a known potential target. Now, there's nothing official been said, but that's a known potential target. And it makes sense, especially when you see what he did at Missouri last year. But goodness gracious, Coach Drink, that's tough to have a career year and have the potential. I mean, we're what? I mean, considering the national championship game, we're not even 2 months out from the end of the season, and he's already going to have potentially lost both of his coordinators. That's awful. So for Coach Drink, I hope for his sake that doesn't happen, but it would make sense. There is one other name that's been thrown out there a little bit It's a gentleman by the name of Curtis Riggs, who has a background with Kalen DeBoer, and he's known as an offensive mind, but his entire coaching career has been in NAIA and Arena League football. But he's still known as kind of an offensive innovator. They played football together. He was quarterback on a team that Kalen DeBoer was on in college. So that name has been thrown out, but that's really a one-off flyer. I throw that out there just to simply say, here's one more name. Don't think there's anything to it, but still, who knows where it's going to land. It's still kind of crazy that we're talking about Alabama already looking for an offensive coordinator. That's a little crazy. I guess it's just the only way I can say it.
It certainly makes you wonder, but I'm excited about Curtis. Did you say Curtis Blow? I was thinking of
Curtis,
not
Curtis
Blow.
I said Curtis Riggs.
Curtis Blow wrote Basketball. The song, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then I thought of Curtis Lowe, as in the Ballad of Curtis Lowe, Leonard Skinner.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's not him either.
Forgive me. No, it's not.
We have gotten way, way off track, Darren.
We have, and actually, I got one more coordinator. Don't want to let Kentucky get lost in the news. They've replaced Mr. NFL, at least for this year, and Bush Hamdan is the new Kentucky offensive coordinator, and he comes from Boise State. So they had a prolific offense last year, so it'll be interesting to see. I'm blank on the name right now. I know that surprises no one, but the Georgia backup quarterback that they just got in from the transfer portal, it looks like it's going to be a system that he can kind of grow in. So it'll be interesting to see how that takes off for them.
From the potatoes of Idaho to the bluegrass of Kentucky.
That's a song, man. It's got to be.
It should be. But let us not digress even further. Let's pause for this week in sports history.
The 2004-2005 Savannah State Tigers started their basketball season with a 102-40 loss to the Memphis Tigers. They ended their season on February 14th with a loss to Florida A&M, compiling a 28-game losing streak and the first winless season in NCAA Division I basketball in over a decade. The Savannah State Tigers and the Prairie View A&M Panthers are the only two schools to complete winless basketball seasons in the last 50 years. Savannah State also holds records for the fewest points scored in a half and worst field goal percentage in a half. In a 2009 game against the Kansas State Wildcats, the Tigers went 1 for 23, a shooting percentage of 4.3%, and scored only 2 points. They ultimately lost the game 85-20.
Oh, thank you.
Let's take a look at our top 25 Associated Press for men and women's college basketball. On the men's side in the SEC, Tennessee still holding on in the top 10 at number 8, despite a pretty rough loss against Texas A&M.
And that was at home, right? Was that at Texas A&M?
I thought it was at A&M.
Yeah, that's right. It was. That's right. Sorry. But it was a rough loss.
I'm giving you a moment to relish this, Darren, because I know you really like these moments.
It was good. I got to have something to enjoy this basketball season because it's sure not Vanderbilt basketball.
You shouldn't wish ill on anybody,
That's
Darren.
true. That's very true. I want Rick Barnes to succeed at another school. But anyway, I want Rick Barnes to succeed.
The surprising South Carolina Gamecocks holding on at number 11.
Wow.
they will be facing, we'll talk about that a little later, a major game later this week against the 13th ranked Auburn Tigers, who 1 minute look stellar in trouncing Alabama, and then they get blown out by Florida.
Yep.
So a little
By 20.
inconsistency.
Yep.
Alabama, a little inconsistent. And really, that might be the buzzword for this year's SEC men's teams. Inconsistency. But let's go back to that. Kentucky at number 22 after losing their third straight at Rupp Arena, the first time that's happened since Rupp Arena opened in 1976. And the Oklahoma Sooners back in the top 25, right at 25. Over on the women's side, South Carolina still number 1. They had
Still
little
rolling.
problem with UConn the other day.
Yep.
Boy, times have changed, haven't they?
Yeah, just a little bit.
The Texas Longhorns at number 5, LSU at 13 after a big win at home against Alabama, and the Oklahoma Sooners at 23. So that's your AP top 25 men and women's sides.
And when you look at that women's top 25, to have Oklahoma and Texas coming into the league, they're not technically into the league, but coming into the league, and they're bringing strong women's programs. That's exciting. To me, that's a great thing to see, that they're going to, that's just another area where they're going to immediately boost and add to the league.
Oh yeah. As Curtis Blow would say, they're playing basketball.
That's well done. Well done.
Curtis Blow, not Curtis Lowe.
Not Curtis Lowe.
Speaking of college basketball, let's go ahead and jump into what's happening this week. On the men's side, we have some big games coming up Wednesday. 11th ranked South Carolina travels to 13th ranked Auburn, a big matchup in the SEC. And number 8 ranked Tennessee travels to Arkansas on Wednesday. Arkansas has been really disappointing. Did you see this? I didn't see this coming.
No. And not only do you not see it coming, but even when it starts off rough, you assume that Eric Musselman is going to get on track, because they always have the talent. You see him year in and year out. Even if it doesn't start right, they kind of pull things together. So you just kind of think, okay, well, here we go. They're going to, it's going to be a great finish, going to be a great, and it just seems to kind of derail a little bit more as opposed to climb like you're used to seeing. It's got to feel odd right now in Arkansas as an Arkansas fan, because this is something it's been a long time since we've seen this out of Arkansas, this level where they are.
And then Saturday, the 22nd ranked Kentucky Wildcats are traveling to 13th ranked Auburn. Kentucky in somewhat of a tailspin, Darren. They've almost slid out of the top 25. They lost 3 straight at Rupp Arena. I watched the end of their game against Gonzaga, and to tell you the truth, the offensive execution, I don't know if it's a play calling or the guys didn't just execute the way they were supposed to, but there are some problems in Lexington. And Kentucky, if they are not careful and they don't get it together, they might wind up missing the tournament.
Which would be just, speaking of things people aren't used to. But we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks, how you see it from time to time, kind of like what we were talking about with Arkansas. It's not something you see on this level. It usually kind of, ebbs, flows, and you see it kind of correct. But you're right. Even just if you watch things like, and not specifically with the Gonzaga game, but in these last few games, watch off-ball movement, especially on the offensive side of our offensive end of the court, spacing, those things. There just seems to be no cohesion in what they're doing. Now, some of that could be play calling. It could be wrong things happening at the wrong time, because that's going to throw all that stuff off as well. But there's really something amiss. Is there something else? Is there something else? Is it a locker room issue? Is it you don't know? And obviously that is not reporting, strictly speculation. But there seems to be something that is really gotten things a little sideways, and they can't get it back on track, as it would seem right now. And this is going to be a tough week for them to do that because they travel to Arkansas Wednesday, correct?
No, that's Tennessee.
That's Tennessee. Sorry.
Kentucky travels to Auburn on Saturday.
Auburn on Saturday. That's a tough place to play. Even though Auburn hadn't had the best, didn't have the best weekend last weekend, Auburn has turned into a tough place to play. They're going to have to be on their game to get past this test. It's going to be very, very difficult.
And depending on how they do against South Carolina, will they have a letdown if they pull out a big win against South Carolina? If they lose, there's a lot of factors there, but certainly there are some there's definitely cause for concern among Kentucky Wildcat fans right now. And we're getting closer and closer to that big dance in March that we love called March Madness.
Oh, yeah.
Can't wait.
It's getting here.
Thank you for watching another episode. We appreciate your support so much. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're listening to us on a podcast platform, be sure to like, to follow, stay up to date with everything that's happening at the Brew and Shavers. It's a gift that you give to us when you like and you subscribe and you follow and you post comments. Even if they're critical, it's a gift to us.
That's
and
right.
We appreciate your input so very much.
Absolutely.
New episodes drop every Tuesday, usually around 6 a.m., depending on how much sleep Darren's gotten the night before.
That's right.
But hey, we are a two-man operation, and I use that term lightly because Darren is really the one that drives all of this. So until next Tuesday, y'all take care.
Have a great week.
Thank you for making the Brew and Shaver Sports Podcast your go-to sports show. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our show if you haven't already. Your feedback is so important. Let us know what you think about this week's show. Send an email to brewandshavers@gmail.com or a text to our text line 318-390-3599. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again for listening to the Brew and Shavers Sports Podcast. See you next week.